Welcome to Avacia's demo series on how to install KubeSlice on Rancher. I'm your host Priyana, and in the last video we completed the prerequisites and installed the KubeSlice controller cluster. Now I'm going to take you through the prerequisites and installation for the worker clusters. Here's the list of steps that we're going to cover to set up the installation of our worker. Note that these need to be performed on each worker that you want to onboard onto the slice. The first step is opening the TCP and UDP ports in all of your worker clusters. This enables internode communication. They're already open in my Phoenix Snap cluster, so I will not get into that, but you may want to check with your provider to ensure that they're open. So now that we're done with that, the next step is creating a project in your controller cluster. The workers will be registered to this project, and it's a way to keep all the clusters in the slice organized. So I'm going to navigate back to my controller's Rancher interface to do that. In the shell, I'm going to create a project.yaml file. And this is the template I'm going to use to configure my project. Going to name my project demo and save it. And now I'm going to use this command to apply it. As you can see, the project was created. So now that we've created the project, another clerical step we need to take is labeling the gateway nodes. If you have multiple node pools on your worker cluster, then you can add a label to each node pool. Labels are useful in managing and scheduling rules for nodes. So I'm going to head over to the first worker's Rancher page to do that, and I'll see you there. So I'm on the dashboard of my worker. Under the cluster tab, I'm going to hit nodes, edit the config, and go to labels and annotations. And I'm going to add a label. The key is going to be kubeslice.io/node-type. And the value will just be gateway. So now I need to install Istio and Prometheus onto my worker clusters. Feel free to skip this portion if you already have these tools on your clusters. So I'm going to load up my shell again. First, we're going to create the Istio namespace. I'm going to add the KubeSlice Helm repo. This is where we're going to be pulling the charts from. So there are 3 charts that we want to download. First, the Istio base chart. Next is Istio discovery. And finally, we're going to install Prometheus. And there we go. So now that Istio and Prometheus are installed, we're going to register our cluster with KubeSlice Manager UI. That way, when we finally install the slice operators, the meat of KubeSlice, onto our worker clusters, we'll be able to monitor the status on the manager. So there are a number of values we need to retrieve from the cluster to register with the manager. We're going to do that together in the next few minutes. So the link to the manager is hidden in the service discovery of your controller cluster. So I'm going to switch back to the controller cluster dashboard. So I'm on my cluster dashboard. I'm going to head to service discovery and services. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, and this is the link that I'm going to hit to access the UI. So since I'm on node port, this needs to be prefixed with HTTPS. And there we go. So to log into the manager, we need the secrets token from the controller. So I'm going to go back and open up the shell and get that. So we're going to get the secret account using this command, get.sa, along with kubeslice-your project name. This UI secret account is the one that we want to get into, so I'm going to do kubectl, describe that, and in the namespace. This monster token right here is what we're going to copy and paste into the manager. So now we're in the KubeSlice UI manager. There's lots to explore here, but let's stay on topic and head over to register cluster to add our worker cluster. So here there's a whole list of items for us to fill in, but let's go step by step. The name of the worker cluster is worker2. You don't need to worry about the node port IP. The KubeSlice manager will auto-detect that on our cloud clusters. The name of the cloud is a data center. It's in Phoenix. And let me just grab the latitude and longitude of that. So for the network interface, we're going to head back into the shell quickly. So essentially what we're trying to do is get the name of the egress interface that deals with external traffic. That is going to be retrieved from our gateway node. To get the gateway node, we're going to get the pods on the Istio system first. One of these is our gateway node. So I'm going to get the pods. I'm looking for the node exporter, which is right here. And I'm going to use this command to log into it and examine it. And this final command is going to retrieve the network interface. There we go, it's bond 0.7. So I'm going to copy that and paste it back into the manager. The API endpoint is the next field, and it is also retrieved from the shell. Do kubectl cluster-info and copy this. Last thing is the Prometheus URL, the Prometheus endpoint, that is composed of two separate values that we're also going to retrieve from the shell. The Prometheus endpoint is essentially just the IP address followed by the node port. So I'm going to copy the node IP address from this command. It's right here. And I'm going to copy the node port from this command, getting the SVC from the system. And that's going to be this number right here. So when I put it together, the URL is just this. So I'm going to prefix those two numbers with HTTPS, and when I put it together, the URL is this, the IP address followed by the node port. I'm going to paste that into the manager and save. And there we go, our cluster is created successfully. So we're almost done with the UI registration. I'm just going to click through these last steps. On this download button right here, we're going to get the worker secrets. And so we're going to need those encoded secrets during our Rancher chart installation. So that's the last thing we need. We're done with the prerequisites, and we're going to start on the meat of the installation. I'm going to journey all the way back to my Rancher console, open up the marketplace, find the KubeSlice worker chart, and let's hit install. No changes here, let's hit next. So the username and password are the same we used for the controller. You should still have these in your email inbox. I'm just going to paste them in. For the worker secrets, I'm going to drag in my terminal and crawl through the YAML file for them. This is a block of text, but let's parse this. Let's go line by line. The first thing we need is the controller namespace, and that's under controller secret, the first line namespace. I'm going to copy that. Second is the endpoint, which is the second line. The CA cert is this massive paragraph right here. Let's get all of that. And the token is right underneath it. So now last tab, we're in the home stretch. This part you're a veteran at, we've completed before. The cluster name is just worker2. The cluster endpoint we retrieved during the UI registration. The node IP we got while finding the Prometheus endpoint. It's just the first half of the Prometheus endpoint. And we also retrieved the network interface for our UI registration. It's just going to be bond 0.7. And that's it. Let's install.